Something interesting that I have observed is that when we end a relationship is when we appreciate it the most. When you haven't talked to your ex in years, sometimes you'll just think about memories, great moments you had, highlights. It's the same when it pertains to figures, whether they were sports figures, political figures, musicians, actors, so on and so forth. Martin Luther King, Abraham Lincoln, and JFK were all not very popular when they were alive and doing what made them famous. In fact, MLK, according to a Pew Research poll taken at that time, was opposed by more than 60% of the country. Abraham Lincoln was so unpopular that many states decided to secede from the Union. JFK had a tight election race, which caused him to have to go to Texas, where he was extremely unpopular at the time. Now, if you look at polling of people's favorite presidents, in many cases, Abraham Lincoln and JFK cracked the top 5. Same thing with Elvis Presley. Elvis, later on in his life, would sell out venues, typically to older individuals. However, his music was not radio hits and it wasn't all over the charts. I remember a newscast that stated, "Back in Vegas, Elvis Presley making another appearance. A sold out venue with an older crowd. All of the young hype people are going to see the Jackson 5. When Elvis passed away, people viewed him how he was in his prime, in his younger days. I'm only 29. There are 2 specific individuals I can speak on who are perceived far differently since they passed than they were when they were active. The first is Michael Jackson. I've always liked Michael Jackson. Now, this is sort of my thought process. When I enjoy somebody as an athlete, musician, actor, so on and so forth, I simply enjoy them doing their craft. For example, Peyton Manning is probably my favorite athlete of all time. I don't know what his wife's name is. I don't know how many kids he has. I don't know his political views. I just liked watching him play football. Robert De Niro, I think, is an absolute piece of shit, but I think he's a really good actor. I enjoy him in his films. Same with Michael Jackson. I didn't know who he was married to or anything like that. I just liked watching him dance, listening to his singing voice, and enjoyed him as an artist. In middle school, before he passed, I remember I was wearing a Michael Jackson shirt. People were always laughing about it, asking me, how could you support this child, you know what? In fact, one of the same girls who was laughing about my shirt in 2009 after he passed got a Michael Jackson purse, a Michael Jackson shirt, and was quote unquote one of the biggest Michael Jackson fans ever. I remember I asked her, why are you supporting this child blank? And she looked at me puzzled. I said, When I was wearing my Michael Jackson shirt in the past, you asked me that. You're just a bandwagon. I call it like I see it, right down the middle. Some people don't like me because I tell the truth. It is what it is. Straight up, you're going to make fun of me for wearing a Michael Jackson shirt. And then years later, just because he passes, you're going to follow the trend and act like you're a diehard fan. F you. F you. Another person that comes to mind is Kobe Bryant. I remember Kobe Bryant was despised by so many NBA fans. So many people rooted against him. And then, when he passed, everybody talked about how they were a diehard Kobe Bryant fan. Now Kobe is viewed not as a selfish player. He is viewed as a legend. Rightfully so. He's one of the best players to ever play the game. But you get the point. It's like that with everybody. When the coach is coaching the team, he's not going to be as popular as when he is gone from the team. When you're dating somebody, they're going to take for granted what you do for them. When you guys go your separate ways, or if you do, they're going to remember nostalgically all of the good memories that you gave to them. Here's my last point, and then I will exit stage left. Presidents typically follow a pattern. I'll just use George Bush Jr. to make it easier, since he is the most recent to follow this historical trajectory. When they get elected, their approval rating has a grace period. People give them a chance, see what they're going to do, blah, blah, blah. After they've been in office for 2 terms, typically, by near the end of their term, their popularity tends to dwindle. Reagan had this happen with the Iran-Contra scandal. Bill Clinton had this happen with his impeachment. You also saw this with Eisenhower, even though he was very popular. Then when they leave office, their approval rating is low. Harry Truman, same thing. After a few years, typically, people think, oh wow, that person wasn't so bad. And then their approval rating tends to increase. George Bush Jr. historically, when he left office, was viewed as one of the worst presidents in U.S. history. As the years have transpired, he is now considered somewhere in the middle. And I think you will see that with most future presidents. That's what tends to happen. It happened with Clinton, happened with Reagan. That's just sort of the trajectory people follow. I just find that interesting that players, coaches, musicians, politicians, historical figures are all way more popular after they retire, after they pass, after they end, when they're inactive, than in the present moment. And we view them not as they are in that present moment, but we view them as they were in their prime. Just like relationships, when a relationship ends, we view that person as they were in their prime, and we look at the fond memories of that relationship.